Adam Smith, who plays Romeo in the opera Romeo and Juliet, put on by the Washington National Opera. It is going on from November 4th through the 18th. I'm so excited to talk with you.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks very much for this. Yeah.
Of course. Talk to me about how you've prepared for the role of Romeo.
Well, I mean, I feel like I've been preparing for this role for 15 years because it's one of the roles that every young tenor looks at early on because it's a very beautiful lyric role, and so I feel like I've been preparing for it for years, and I've spoken French since I was very young, and so I connect very deeply with this kind of music, and so to be able to do it now is just a gift, really. You know, it's incredible.
Fantastic. Now, have you done any physical preparation? Is it a particularly active role?
Very active role.
Okay.
I mean, most people know the story of Romeo and Juliet. And for those that don't, in the middle of the show, there's this huge fight scene, and you, as Romeo, you have to be able to then sing afterwards, and it's very active, and you know, there's a lot of climbing up the set and climbing down, and it's fun. I love this part of it. It's one of the exciting parts, and it gives the audience different visual dynamic as well as the audio and so yeah, absolutely. Being physically able is very important.
Okay, yeah. Now, Romeo and Juliet, we were talking a little bit before the interviews, the classic, iconic, romantic tragedy. And, you know, what does it mean to you to be in this role?
Well, Romeo and Juliet has the complete scope of emotions. Mm-hmm. So you really have to start from somewhere very innocent and honest. And you still have to finish honest, right. But you go through such a range of emotions that it drains you at the end. But it's incredible to live that on stage and try and give that to the audience and make them feel and help them to feel and release emotion that they might have caught up, partly from the singing and partly from the visual. But I like to think, because it's opera, I like to think mostly from the singing. But it means it's wonderful to be able to give that to people, to be able to release my own emotion and bring people on the journey with us all on stage. You know?
Right. Now, you also, you know, I did my research as a proper journalist. You also you have an Instagram, and on there you do some videos where you kind of educate and inspire people about opera. What motivated you to do that?
Well, I think there's a lot of misinformation about opera, and opera in itself is a deep, deep art form, and it's cultural, and it gives people an outlet. And I want people to understand that we all do opera, we all perform, we all sing, we all, you know, act. We all want to be there to help people to feel these feelings, and it's a real art form, and it's very, very, very deep, and it's extremely accessible. Especially when you get given a story like Romeo and Juliet. It's very, very accessible because everyone knows it.
And I mean, speaking of opera and accessibility, what would you say, maybe someone who's coming to see Romeo and Juliet and they've never gone to an opera, what would you say to them going into it?
It's the easiest opera to come to.
Okay.
Because the music is stunningly beautiful. I mean, the language of French is stunningly beautiful. And the lighting, the set, the cast is super strong. And it's just, you can sit back, or as I prefer to say, sit forward,
yeah.
and take it all in. And there's nothing, it will challenge you emotionally, but it won't challenge you from a point of view of you won't understand it, because you will. There are subtitles in English, and you will always understand what's going on, but it's the easiest option to come to listen to this.
That makes sense. Now, when you first started your career, did you think that you would get to this point where you were at the Kennedy Center in Washington, DC, playing Romeo and Juliet?
Well, I mean, you know, when you start out, you start out very sort of naive and not quite knowing exactly how your career is going to necessarily pan out. But being at the Kennedy Center, this incredible artistic building, is just the center for the arts. I mean, in Washington, DC, it's an incredible place to be, and the theater is amazing. And to answer your question, I hoped so.
That's
and
fair.
I persevered with the with the endeavor to be able to reach this phase of my career. And yeah, I hoped and I worked hard to try to make that happen. And that's all we can do, you know.
Exactly. No, very true.